Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Seen Beyond and Through with Monty. Right before you is the actress Paula Patton. And Paula has made some interesting comments that were in the past, but they still are relevant to her as to how she identifies and sees herself today. And Mrs. Patton was asked about these comments. And she made it very clear as to how she chooses to identify herself. Paula Patton explains why she doesn't identify as biracial. I'm black and I embrace it. Now, before I go any farther, I want you to hear from her mouth as to why she feels this way.
On racial identity, and I quoted you, and I just wanted you to reflect on this quote because I love this quote. You said this, quote, I find the term biracial offensive. It's a way for people to separate themselves from African Americans, a way of saying I'm better than that. I have a white parent and a black parent also, and I've always hated the term biracial as well. It just didn't resonate with me. And now, you see this conversation happening more with Colin Kaepernick's series and so on, but that was really amazing when I heard you say that. It resonated with me. What are your thoughts when you hear that quote later?
I feel the exact same way. I mean, I think that's not to say that I don't embrace my mother and everything that she's brought to my life, but it was my mother who let me know the world's going to see you as black. And that is who you are, so don't have any question about that, and I'm very grateful for her. And I think we live in the politics of race in our country are such that when one wants to make it very clear that they're not black, that it's a way to keep them separate from black people. And we know that we've had a long history in this country of that, of it not being popular to be black, to be honest with you. And so, I've always found that and to be an offensive term. I'm black and I embrace, that's my family.
Well, that's why we've always appreciated you and supported you, because you have stayed rooted with us, with your career. You just always stay rooted with us.
So as you heard, Paula finds the term biracial to be offensive, as well as the host, who's also biracial. He finds it to be offensive, and both identify as black. Now, I'm going to give you some context as to why I think that could also be. Because the term biracial, it actually is a strange term to me. It means nothing. And it's a very ambiguous term that has really no historical context to it, culturally wise. In terms of what is biracial culture? What is biracial history? See, along those lines right there. So it's almost like you're out there in the middle of the ocean, just an island by yourself. And this particular term, biracial, it can mean anything. It can mean any number of combinations. It could be black and white. It could be black and Asian. It could be white and Asian. It could be black and Indian. It could be white and Indian. It could be a number of things. This is the reason why it's just a very ambiguous terms that it doesn't mean anything. And with Paula, there are a number of celebrities who think along the same lines, who are biracial, but who identify as black, and who does not like the term biracial. And when people do not like that term biracial, we have to respect that. I don't like the term African American because they do not use the term European American. And it's almost like we have no foundation or no history here in America. It's like you're from Africa, like you did not contribute or add anything to America. And as we know, that's not true. But getting back to Paula's case about how her mother told her that she's black and the world will see her as being black. Well, Halle Berry's mother told her the exact same thing. Remember the famous story when Halle's mother told her to look into the mirror and they both were there and she said, "Look at me, what do you see?" And Halle says, "Oh, I see white." Then she told Halle, "Well, when you look at you, what do you see?" "I see black." And Halle's mother told her, "Well, this is how the world is going to view you." And this is similar to what Paula was saying, how the world is going to view her. Regardless of what you are or what part of your parentage is, for the most part, when you're biracial, the world will see you as being black. However, I'm not saying that biracial should identify as being black. As I've always stated, that is a very individual and personal decision that that particular person has to make. It is not up to black people to make that decision for biracials. It is not up to white people to make that decision for biracials. It is not up to other biracials to make that decision for other biracials. It is up to that particular individual to make that decision. So Paula Patton, along with Halle Berry, along with Colin Kaepernick, along with Jesse Williams, along with Naomi Osaka, all are biracial, but they consider themselves black. And many times they just do not like the term biracial because, it could mean anything, then it could mean nothing. Naomi Osaka, "Before I'm an athlete, I am a black woman." Naomi Osaka withdraws from the WNS in protest. Well, she withdrew because of the Jacob Blake shooting. And this was during the time when she won the U.S. Open, when she was wearing that facial mask with the names of victims who were shot at the hands of police. So, yes, Naomi Osaka, even with the Japanese mother, she does identify as being black. And I'm telling you guys, it was probably her Japanese mother who told her that the world will see you as being black. Most people who are biracial, black and white, or some other combination, usually it is the non-black parent who would tell them that the world will see you as being black. So people need to really stop it with that crazy talk about how, well, you're not embracing both sides, where you're denying a part of you. No, they know what they're doing. They're doing that for survival because they know that the world is not going to see Naomi Osaka as being Japanese. They're not going to see Paula Patton, Halle Berry, Colin Kaepernick, even Jesse Williams as being white. So therefore, I think a lot of times that is for preparation. They're preparing their children for life, the harsh reality of life living in a racist society. Now, in some cases, there are people, famous people who identify and embrace being biracial, like Meghan Markle, who famously stated that after much thought and consideration, she considers herself to be a biracial woman. That's fine and dandy. She should get no slack for that. She chooses to identify as biracial, that's fine. But listen to this right here. Column. Meghan Markle saw herself as biracial, but the royals saw her as black. Kind of like what Paula Patton was saying, that the world will see you as being black. Now, did Meghan Markle make a mistake by identifying as biracial? No, absolutely not. That's how she feels comfortable. That's what she chose. That's what she embraces. So that's her truth, her life. But look at this. The royals saw her as black. Yes, she got slack for that. Wondering how dark the baby would be. And she found out that regardless of how you choose to self-identify, in the eyes of racist people, if you have that black in you, and if it's noticeable, they would treat you as such. Remember Mr. Kablanasian, Tiger Woods? Well, Tiger Woods says he's Kablanasian, but the police saw only black. Of course. Of course. Tiger Woods wanted to be anything other than black. And that's his choice too. But once again, when you get into trouble and when you come in contact with law enforcement, they are not going to see your non black parent. And yes, the police saw only black. In fact, remember when they did the police report and they put down black? It was not anything about mixed or biracial. So this is correct. They did see only black. And The Rock. The Rock chooses biracial also, according to him, yeah. Now, someone said that they said, well, cool, he identified as Samoan in WWE and was booked that way after Nation Days. Well, after Nation of Islam Days, he was going around as black during his Nation Days. Then after that ended, he was booked as something else. Let's go on. Was never booked, proclaimed, or titled as first black champion. And hardcore wrestling fans didn't name him as such as well. Thus, nobody calls him a black champion. Anoha, a family background angle. So The Rock had something to say about that, and this is what he stated. Glad I came across this, and I'll give you guys some context and truth. I identify as exactly what I am, both equally proud, black and Samoan. And my friend, let me expand your thoughts a bit here. I transcend race in wrestling, so there was no booked that way. Thanks, guys. Okay, so black and Samoan, that's biracial. He doesn't identify as either or. No harm, no foul. I think that when people choose to identify as both, it's extremely important for black people not to try to pigeonhole them into a category. Allow them to identify as such, as both. That's fine. I don't think it adds to the black community, and it sure in the hell doesn't take away anything. So how he chooses to identify is not going to hurt the overall black population. He chooses to identify as biracial, black and Samoan, as both. Well, more power to him. So that being said right there, we can clearly see that for the most part, even if you choose to identify as biracial, in many cases, be prepared to be treated as black, as Tiger Woods found out the hard way. And in the case of, we're going back to Paula Patton, here's Meghan Markle, Naomi Osaka, Naomi again, Jesse. You know, as I stated before, that people should be allowed to identify as to what makes them feel comfortable, as to how they feel. A lot of it's going to be how their parents brought them up and how they were taught. And that should be respected, regardless as to what side of the fence they choose to be on, or if they choose to be on both sides of the fence. Now, both sides of the fence, career-wise, I can have a problem with that. Because if you're like The Rock, and you're choosing to identify as black and Samoan, if there's a beefy black role, a good role, I think that it's disingenuous for you to claim that you're black totally just for a role or just for a job opportunity. Just like it would be disingenuous for him to claim that he's Samoan for the same benefits. So in some ways, they kind of pigeonhole themselves to be, the character would have to be really no race, no ethnicity. The character would pretty much have to be ambiguous. So just like Paula Patton identified as black, that means that she could not take the role of someone who is white, obviously. And she probably wouldn't, because she's been very true to her beliefs and her stance about this particular issue since I first heard about her 10 years ago. And that quote that she made, she has been speaking to that and about that for as long as she's been into acting. She's never shied away from that. So kudos to her for identifying as to what makes her feel comfortable and for what she feels is her truth. And I think that regardless as to how we choose to self-identify, we should always seek to live our truth. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is another edition of Seeing Beyond and Through with Monty, and I will see you all beyond and through.